Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Brother Jack Pidgeon, West Houston Christian Center. My dad asked me to step in and do his vlog for him this afternoon, so I appreciate the opportunity to share the Word with you for a few moments. Really what I want to talk about is just the power of your thoughts. It's very, very clear that whatever we think about the most, we empower. I want to go to the book of Genesis, go all the way to the beginning and show us how this all got started. Genesis chapter 3, beginning in verses 5 said, "Then the serpent said to the woman, 'You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.'" So how did Satan, who had nothing, how was he able to take from Adam and Eve, who had everything? He was able to get Eve to substitute one of his thoughts for one of God's thoughts. And the Bible says that the more that Eve pondered the thought that Satan gave her about not touching that fruit, the more desirable the fruit came. So there you know, here we are today, thousands of years later, because Satan was able to get a child of God to substitute one of God's thoughts for one of Satan's thoughts. You know, one of the worst things that happened to the man in the fall in the book of Genesis was we lost our ability to think like God. You know, Adam and Eve were created in the very image and likeness of God and therefore had the ability to think like God. And what's happened now is that when man fell, that he lost his ability to think like God and he began to think like a man. God's thoughts will always lead you to more. God's thoughts will always lead you to blessing. God's thoughts will always lead you into more and more of Him. Man's thoughts are limited, and 9 times out of 10, they're predicated on self. What is it going to do for me first? See, God's thinking is, what can I get to man first? Man's thinking is, what can I get for myself first? If we jump all the way to Jesus and Peter, Jesus is with His disciples and He says to His disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" And He talks, some said you're Elijah, some say you're a great prophet, but Peter looks at Jesus and he says, "You are the Christ, you are the anointed one." And Jesus says, "Peter, on this rock, on the revelation that you have, I will build my church." Well, that would be a great ending to that story if it weren't for what happened next. Peter pulls Jesus aside and begins to rebuke him after Jesus shared that he was going to be going to the cross. And Jesus makes this statement. He said, "Get behind me, Satan, because you are not thinking like God, you are thinking like a man." Well, how do we know that Peter was thinking like a man? Because Peter said, "Jesus, this isn't fair." God always deals in truth. Man always deals with being fair. Hey, I hope this was a blessing to you today. If you're ever in the area, we'd love to see you at West Houston Christian Center. And remember, don't let the devil substitute one of his thoughts for one of God's thoughts. God's thoughts are always going to lead you to more. God bless you.
And Jesus dealing with sin. You know, He doesn't deal with the sinner because He doesn't like the sinner. He deals with sin because He loves the sinner. For we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But He loves the sinner. He loves to be around the sinner to let the sinner know there's a way out from your sin.